the beginning in first verse, verse 42. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teachings and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Verse 43. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. Verse 44. All the believers were together and had everything in common. Let me repeat that again. All the believers were together and had everything in common. Verse 45. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Verse 46. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts. The last and final verse, verse 47. Praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily. Let me repeat that once again. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. Praise God for the wonders and majesty of his message. Amen. The reason why the world is set up the way that it is, and you have to perform in the world the way that it is because the world is built off of competition. The world is built off of competition. Specifically, in a capitalist society, you have free enterprise and free market. And what, as Adam Smith calls, the invisible hand of the free enterprise and the free market is competition. This is what he says and what a capitalist economy is organized and regulated by competition. So the reason why competition is said to be necessary and also said to be good in a capitalist society, which understand that capitalist is capital meaning profit, so a society that's run for profit. So that's why it's free market and free enterprise, because this is supposed to be allowing the man to freely make profit and to freely make a living and freely make a fortune without being prohibited in any way. Because beforehand, coming from over in Europe and in England and things and the economies over there, a lot of rights and things were given to a person due to their title and status. So if you were considered a commodore versus a person that was a count or a baron or some type of title or aristocracy or royalty, you had rights and privileges and things simply based on your birth status and title that other people didn't have. So therefore, there was a cap on what you could achieve, how much money you could make, what jobs and things you would have. And then, of course, when ships and things started being happening, they started with the imports and the importations and the exportations of gold and wealth and metal-based and tangible-based commodities. This was what was called the wealth of nations, which is what the book of Adam Smith was called, the wealth of nations. Which is why you would see the movies with pirates and how they would go and follow these treasure maps, and you would have banks and financial institutions and investors that would fund these voyages to where they would go, of course, and get this money, and then they would bring it back. And this is how wealth and nations would increase overnight. They could buy more ships and weapons and armories and things, and so and of course ports and docks and goods and things begin to start to become monopolized and these types of things. So the whole point of the capitalist society is to murder monopolies. Because if you have one person that is control over some type of product or goods or services, then they can fix the price of that and fix the availability of that. And so that's why you started getting into price fixing and who is able to purchase a good and who has the availability to it and all these things, because once a person gains a monopoly of it, they can control who can get it and for what price and this type of thing. So that's what one of the things that the free market was supposed to do, was to stop a person from having a monopoly, because the free market was supposed to allow different people to enter into business. So one person couldn't be the only person that sold fish. Somebody else could sell fish. And if you were to look at it like in the markets, from where we get the term market now, when we talk about, of course, we talk about digital currency, and we talk about the trades of things that are done now on a digital platform. But when you really talk about the market, as now was kind of talked about in an abstract and more or less used as a term, but it really came from the physical market, for where people actually went to. And even when you go to now, you think of the supermarket, but back then you actually went to the market while you had merchants. How you still kind of have in other countries outside of the States, and even parts in our own country, where you have the baker and the butcher, and you have the person that's selling fruit and selling grain and selling all types of goods and products. But with a person not having a monopoly on one product, good, and services, then that way you could have several people in the market who sell fish, and several people in the market who sell bread, and who sold, whatever other type of good and product. And that competition is what made people lower their prices, because if I'm selling my fish for $10 and all of the other people that's selling fish are selling their fish for $10, no one's going to come and buy my fish for $10. They're going to go to the other people that's buying their fish for $5. And then, of course, between the people that is buying the fish for $5, somebody might sell their fish for $4.50 or $4, or, have a sale and stuff like this. So that type of competitiveness is ultimately what was called the invisible hand, as Adam Smith said, who was supposed to be the father of the free market and the father of capitalism. That invisible hand was supposed to regulate and govern the free market, simply because I couldn't make a profit unless I sold fair goods at fair prices. Of course, there's different schools of thoughts on economics, so I'm not getting too deep into that, but I'm trying to help you, which is the main point that I'm trying to help you understand. I'm trying to help you understand a system that's built off of competition. Because a system that is built off of competition means that I'm always in a constant state of having to compete, of having to prove myself. Meaning, my product's good today, it might not be good tomorrow. It's selling good today, it might not be selling good tomorrow. And it makes you less valuable. Because if the market is flooded with this particular service or good, that's good for the consumer, because that means that the consumer will get it for a pretty cheap price because it's common. But for the business person, not only will it be hard for them to sell a product that is very common, it'll be hard for them to make a real profit off of it, because they're expendable. If on every corner there's somebody selling cotton candy, if nobody goes to your stand and buy cotton candy because I bought cotton candy from the other stand and gone to the other stand, or whatever the case may be, your business, your service is quote unquote non-valuable. And this is what I'm trying to help you understand about a society that's built off of competition. A society that's built off of competition, somebody is always competing for value. I need you to help see this, because the difference between competition and a system that's built around competition versus Christ, which builds a system about community, koinonia, brings about two different ways of life and two different ways of living. Because you see, in competition, I'm always having to fight for my value. It's just like siblings, where the parent makes them compete against each other. So they feel as though in order for me to win my mother's and father's love, I have to be the greatest. I have to always be the one doing the latest and the greatest. Always doing something to catch their eye. Because if I don't, then I'm not going to get their love. And so then your value and your worth is tied to what you can do and not tied to who you are as a person. And I hope you can see now to how I'm connecting this back to the novelty and to the person and the performer. Because in a society that's built on competition, where you're always fighting for your value is always linked to what you can do. So if there's someone who's more talented than you in this area, if there's someone that can outdo you, you're left in the lurch. Or you're left always scratching and clawing, trying to fight and undercut this person or undercut this thing, just so you can be valued, just so you can be loved. So what it does is it creates literally a cutthroat environment. And a lot of times we use the word cutthroat as, just being, stern or firm or, harsh or, to the point. But I want you to really understand where the word cutthroat is. It really means to cut a person's throat. So you mean to kill a person. So what that's talking about is ruthlessness. That's talking about a place that's void of compassion, that's void of love, that's void of care. You're talking about that dog-eat-dog world. When you talk about cutthroat, where I will literally cut your throat and cut anyone's throat to get ahead. And for what? A moment, just a moment in the spotlight? A second in the spotlight? A moment to be noticed? And if that really is the case, what type of life is that? And what type of person does that breed that feels like they have to fight for every single thing that they had? Every single thing in life they had to scratch and claw and hurt and maim and bite and tear and rip to achieve. That's what competition breeds. It's an endless war. That's why with Christ, he says, the system that I built is not off of competition, it's off of community. Because with me, you never have to compete for my love. Because number one, you can't earn my love. It's given to you for free. So because it's given to you and given to you for free, there's nothing for you to have to fight for. That's why God's love to so many people, it sounds unrealistic. Like, yeah, right. To a person that every single thing that they had to fight for, they had to compete for. They had to look to the left and look to the right, and there was somebody trying to snatch and take what they had. And that's what you have with the business. That's why people that try to have morals and they try to have ethics and they try to have a way of doing things, it's very hard to do because of the cutthroat competition. Like, okay, you don't want to do it, fine. I find somebody else who will. And wherever they have your talent, wherever they have your gifts, wherever they can do it like you do, they'll limp along with what they have, then go with the real thing. Unless they're really locked and invested and, tied up or something. But most of the time That's why a lot of times the untold story to get in the head is ruthlessness. That's the untold story. The person that is willing to be ruthless, the person that is willing to do anything, give anything. Because of that competition that always keeps people at each other's throats. That's why a lot of times when you see between fighters, and fighters will tell you, and a lot of times different competitors and different industries will tell you, like, we know each other. We know each other. We could have grew up. We could have talked. Like, I like you. We could be friends. But if you have a system that's built off of competition, then you force people to be at each other's throats. So now, if we fighters, I gotta go in there and fight you and knock you out just so I could get a paycheck, just so I could eat. Why is it like that? It's just like with acting and things. A lot of people will tell you that a lot of actors and things, they know each other too. A lot of the times, the people that are going for the positions, a lot of times, same people going for positions, same things are offered. They could be friends. They could have known each other, worked with each other before. But now, pinned against each other. Somebody got to go in there to get the part. And that's why I love about God, because God is saying that everything that I've given you, you don't have to fight for, you don't have to work for, you don't have to earn it. It's given to you for free, and you never have to worry about it leaving. What I promised you, what I purposed you, what I planned for you, what I predestined and pre-assigned and pre-designed and preordained for your life, it's never going to deplete. It's never going to delete. I'm never going to deceive. Remember, I'm not the deceiver. It's Satan that is the deceiver. He comes to remove, to deselect, to destroy. That's what he comes to do. He's the deceiver. I am the conceiver. Oh, hey, yeah, I am the conceiver. That's why I am the creator. Everything that is created is because I have conceived it. I am the conceiver, and you are the receiver, and Satan is the deceiver. For what I have conceived, I have given to you, and you have received, and he has come to deceive, to remove and take away what you have received from what I have conceived, therefore created. You have to understand that. This is why you have people that lose their compassion, that lose their love, that lose their caring and lose their self, because they're forced into this competition. That's why God said, as the greatest, as the second greatest command, which is like the first and greatest command, which was to love your neighbor like yourself, which is to love one another. And people will know that you are my disciples, that you are my servants, that you are my men and women of God. It's when they see you love one another. Competition destroys the love, because the same person that I would rather be in community with, I now have to compete against. So now they become my competitor. They become my combatant. That's why it can be no community with competition. That's why when you look at the African American communities and communities that are impoverished, you see that a lot of the times the people are in competition with each other for the most littlest things. Who got the newest sneakers? Who got the newest games or game system? Who got the newest clothes? Who got the newest watch? Who got the newest car? It's just these stupid things we all in competition for and pulling each other down for. There can be no community where there is competition, because now, instead of looking at you as my brother and sister, now you're my opponent. Now you're my combatant.